You know, it must really, really sting when you live online terminally and you decide to want to attack somebody like J.K. Rowling, and you are forced, literally forced, to issue an apology to this person who you just enjoyed thrashing online because you felt like you were on the right side of history. Well, now we have absolute justice, and I really, really wanted to share this article with you guys. So I have an article today from Bounding Into Comics, and it's absolutely hilarious, and I just couldn't wait to make a video on it because it's funny to me. It's funny to me that you had to issue a public apology to J.K. Rowling, and not only are you a trans activist, but you're also a drag queen. Like, this whole thing, this checks off so many boxes of pure enjoyment. I had to make a video on it. So let's talk about it and let's check it out from Bounding Into Comics. It says Harry Potter scribe J.K. Rowling receives public apology from trans activist and drag queen who falsely accused her of being a bad person from WW2. Now, again, they love using that word because they feel like it has some sort of like power. They feel like if they say the N-word like that it's going to allow them to be vindicated in their thoughts. And they don't realize that people just don't care. Like, they really don't care. You throw out so many names these days. Like, I get called 5 to 10 names a day. You think I care about what any of them say? It's ridiculous. It says, in a massive moment of eating crow, a transgender activist who publicly and proudly accused Harry Potter creator J.K. Rowling of being a literal bad person from World War II over her personal views on transgender issues has come forward and offered an apology for his behavior. The situation surrounding Rowling and the activist Irish drag queen J.J. Wallace first began on December 27th of 2022 when the latter took his personal brand of combative advocacy to Twitter. And there's our famous trans character from Hogwarts Legacy, of which all these angry transphobic people have no idea even exists in the game. If they would just play the game for literally an hour or two, they would realize that the game is actually very friendly to multiple different kinds of people, but they'll never get to that point because they're too busy being told to be mad, so they're going to stay mad. It says, replying to a tweet by retired Stanford CT police officer and veteran gay activist Fred Sargent, who not only participated in the Stonewall riots, but also helped organize the very first Pride March, in which he shared a meme declaring LGBT people owe trans people nothing. Trans people owe LGBT people everything. And then noted the wanker Owen Joe, Wellis attacked, trust me, nobody's going to make you famous, you outdated old dinosaur. You hateful views and bullshit you spread have seen to that. You're obsolete and you won't be around much longer. And thank God for that, because ACAB, the activist continued, especially you traitor. Oh my God, geez. I love when they like attack their own kind of a thing. I think it's pretty amazing. But of course, these activists can't stand for people who actually paved the way for them. They cannot stand it. They think that they own the space. These young kids who identify as 20 different things a day think that they are smarter than everybody else, of course. They think they can never do any wrong, and they think they own the spaces that they try to invade. It's really, really sad. It says from there, Wellis would spend the next few days aggressively engaging with and attempting to antagonize his ideological opponents, in particular Sargent, before ultimately finding himself in the crosshairs of Father Ted co-creator Graham Linehan. A prominent critic of transgender politics, Linehan found himself taken aback by how, in the course of his wild swingings, Wellis had written off Sargent and actor James Dreyfus as nothing more than scumbags. In light of Linehan entering the discourse, one of Wellis' supporters felt the need to offer the activist both support and thanks by promoting his career. Twitter bully Graham Linehan is currently encouraging his 500,000 followers to harass this lad, wrote Growl Creates. Linehan is obsessed with posting screenshots of his tweets and mocking him, so I'm giving him his spotlight page a boost. Again, you cannot join civil discourse. You cannot join a discussion and then get mad when people reply to you. You then get mad when people showcase what you said. You're perfectly fine with showcasing what other people say, but because this other guy happens to have a following of 500,000 or more, now all of a sudden it's a problem if he retweets what this stupid idiot decides to want to say, or when he replies to what this idiot decides he wants to say, now all of a sudden it's a problem. It's like they constantly hit a beehive, and then when the bees attack back, they want to claim that the bees are misogynist, racist, or phobes, or whatever the case may be. It makes no sense. He says he calls to arms was soon countered by fellow Twitter user Fragalegal, who asserted, read up on this lad. He does exactly the same. If he can't take it, he shouldn't dish it out. That's exactly what I said. If you cannot take the conversation, you shouldn't be the one to dish it out and try to start the conversation in the first place. Just stay quiet, stay out of the discourse, and you'll be fine. But the moment you want to try to engage in the conversation, you need to basically admit admit that you have the opportunity to potentially be in the crosshairs, of which this guy just finally realized that, hey, I'm in the crosshairs, you know what I mean? And now he wants to play victim because he's in the crosshairs. Like, come on, man. Dodging her point and failing to recognize the hypocrisy of the man he was supporting, Growl Creates shot back. You think he deserves to be humiliated by a man with 500,000 followers, many of whom have replied to him with abuse, and Graham has even mocked his career? You think that's fine, Jane? Yeah, I do. I do think that's perfectly fine, because if Wellis wants to mock other people and Wellis wants to get involved in the conversation and he wants to attack people, I think it's perfectly fine if somebody with a small following or a big following decides to reply to him and get involved themselves. Because if Wellis is allowed to get involved, why can't the dude with 500,000 followers get involved? The following count should mean nothing over whether someone gets involved or not. All that matters is what they have to say. It says, refusing to let Growler Creates ignore the disingenuous nature of Wellis's own social media activity go, another user countered, you think it's fine publicly to incite violence towards a woman just because he doesn't like her views, and you think it's you guys who aren't the bigots. Don't be so daft. He did nothing of the sort. He denied. Again, same thing. That's exactly what I was saying. These people think that they're righteous. They think they're on the right side of history. They think they're the arbiters of truth, and yet all of a sudden, when you fight them back, they want to claim to be victims. It says, however, likewise, refusing to let the activists and his supporters gaslight the public, Cindy Black 3 interjected, why lie? We have receipts. That's the best. Alongside her declaration, shared a screenshot of now deleted September 22nd, 2020 tweet made by Wellis in which he declared J.K. Rowling was one of my childhood idols. But that was before she was a transphobic piece of shit. How confident is she that she's a witch that won't burn? I've got a stake that begs to put it to the test. Again, look at the hypocrisy. I can't stand these people. Look at the hypocrisy. They are the most violent people online by far, whether verbally or physically. They are extremely violent. And the moment you give them any kind of pushback, they want to run into the corner, claim to be a victim, cry in their panties that they bought from some woman's clearance section, and decide to want to play victim. It's such a fucking joke. If you're gonna try to transition into a man, at least try to act like one. If you can't act like one, go back to being a woman and live a comfortable life of victimhood. Otherwise, stop it. What are you doing? I know plenty of women that do not act this way. I know a lot of women that are way tougher than this fucking loser. It says, taking notice of the criticism being leveled his way over this tweet, Wellis will later join the conversation himself to explain, well, to be fair, the woman in question wasn't actually being threatened with being burned alive. Hyperbolic metaphor based on her original tweet, but you know that you're playing dumb intentionally for clout. And she also is a Nazi, or at least has views that are aligned with them. Again, I'm almost positive that this person has views that are aligned with people from World War II as well. I would not be surprised if that's the case, but of course they are too blind to see their own actions, and they're too busy pointing fingers at everybody else. It says, following a break from the social media platform for the holidays, itself preceded by him personally flagging many of the users who disagreed with him, Wellis would once again begin posting to his account on December 29th. Upon his return, Twitter user Lefty Unwoke mocked, and he's back. Turns out your pitiful mass flagging of opposing views didn't bear the fruits you hoped for. Stay pressed, you joke of an activist. I love it. That's beautiful. Good fucking comment. He's back for now, Wellis attempted to play along, and if Twitter doesn't sort it, my solicitor will. It was at this point, courtesy of Wellis' attempt at a dig, that Rowling found herself among those unable to let the activist's bad faith tantrums continue. The thing about the solicitor's game is everyone can play JJ, said the author. I ignored your hyperbolic metaphor about burning me to death in 2020, but I'm starting to think that was a mistake. What's your solicitor's view on this Nazi accusation? Will they advise you to defend it in court? Ooh, and I guarantee she got all the money in the world to take your stupid ass to court. It says, well, embarrassingly replies Wellis, we meet at last. I think you were once an icon to me. I think you absolutely have views that align with Nazis. I think also Fred has views that align with Nazis. I think relying on tropes and stereotypes is very 1930s propaganda. Wow. Let's be realistic, he would add in a follow-up. Anti-Semitic tropes in a children's book are one thing, but implying and encouraging the idea that a protected group of vulnerable people need to be eradicated and don't deserve protection, that's not the woman we idolize as children. Let me ask you a question, J.J. Wellis. Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? I'm just curious. Is J.J. Wellis Jewish? Because it's amazing how the whitest of the white people want to constantly talk about what other people should be offended by. What is this? What is this? I'll tell you what it is. It is white people who would initially have been perfectly fine with slavery, who have now decided they found a different way to keep people enslaved. And that's called hardcore left-wing liberal politics, especially identity politics. If you can convince someone they are a victim, you will keep them in a bubble. You will keep them in a box that they cannot escape from, thus allowing you to have a victim that you can utilize and take advantage of in different ways. Yeah, they might be technically free. They might be paid, but at the end of the day, they're mental slaves, and that's exactly what these people found a way to do. They found a way to turn the slavery up from physical to mental, and that is way more effective than any kind of physical slavery could ever be. So that's all the clout that I'm going to give this idiot. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.